next panel is going to be about the public sector. We're going to try to ask the question about its role, the public sector, when it comes to open source, whether it's creating, funding, leading, all of the above. So in the next session, we'll learn about opportunities and challenges in both national and local governments when it comes to fostering open source solutions. And for this, I'd like to invite your gender balanced co-moderators. Introducing Monika, Sowinska, that you saw before. You're an OSOR project officer at the European Commission. You can give her a round of applause. She organized all of this. And you will be joined by, and now I'm challenging myself, Gijs. Gijs Hillenius, project officer on the open source strategy, also in the European Commission.
That worked out.
And since you enjoy making me pronounce names that I don't know how to do, I will also introduce your panelists. Fiona Krakenburger, co-founder of the Sovereign Tech Fund. Hi, Fiona. Fun fact, it means octopus citizen.
Correct.
Not sick citizen, octopus citizen, which is very relevant, I think, for us using GovTech. Jacco Brouwer, or Brouwer. He took it, Jacco Brouwer from the Dutch Association of Municipalities. I have a feeling that it's not right. Arnau Monterde from the municipality of Barcelona, and Radoslav Zeman from the municipality of Slovakia. Yeah, and Fabrizio Sestini, senior expert at the Commission DG Connect. You have enough chairs for everyone? You're good? Okay, Slido point. So we shut down questions because we're running late and I don't think you'll have time for it. But you have one word cloud poll on the role of national and local governments that Monika will take at the end. So you can already fit in your answers, 1-2 words, it's a word cloud. And even though we won't have time to take questions and ideas, some of the panelists said that they are interested in what you have to say and your ideas that you'd like to pitch to them. So even if they don't discuss it on stage, you can still see each other's ideas, and they will see your ideas, and they will think about them later on. So feel free to also use the ideas tab. And with that, I leave you.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So hello again, everyone. Those that haven't seen me earlier, I was here in the beginning, and now it's again opportunity to talk from here, which is quite new for me. It's almost first time. So I wanted to explain, because some of you might remember that we had a bit different title of this session in the beginning, because we planned to devote this session to what we are doing at OSOR and what we would like OSOR to do for the next 15 years. But to know what Observatory offers, you can just go to our page on JoinUp. So basically, there's no point to have a presentation on that. And what the future holds for OSOR is totally in hands of developers, open source managers, and policy makers. Because OSOR's main role is to observe and report. We also do more things, like putting people together, organizing workshops. But the main role, Observatory, it says everything. And what we are going to do in the future, it's also in the user's hands. We strive to cater to your needs. So please get involved, follow us, go to page and sign up for newsletter. So today we decided that we invite those, our nice guest here, who shape the open source landscape in municipalities, and those who are involved in the project that help to fund some of open source projects. So the session is divided in 2 parts. They are very much linked. But first, I would like to ask one question of Gijs, who has been with OSOR since its founding and until 2020 was the main OSOR editor. So Gijs, question to you. Tell us about how it is right for OSOR. I know that it's not easy because I am checking some things that are to be published. And what impact does our reporting bring to community, to open source landscape, to the world?
So close to 2,500 news items for OSOR over the 15 years. And it's a fantastic project to work on if you're me. There's 2 things. One of the things that I like doing is to make some of the articles very funny for the readers. I'll give you the anecdote. You should look it up. There's a story about the European Parliament discussing whether they should use an open source based video conferencing system for making their telephones. And so one of the subheadings was EP Phone Home. And okay, so at least I know it's funny, right? So, but you don't hear this from the readers because they don't react like that. But the thing is, working on OSOR has helped change how open source is in Europe. I'm pretty sure of it, because during the work, just by asking a question, you start changing the minds of the people you're talking to. And the anecdote to make that clear, there was a procurement request published by the government, by the police force in Romania. It's a long, long time ago. And they had, for some reason, decided to put a requirement saying, whatever you give us, it may not have the GPL license. And I was just interested to ask them, why would you forbid the GPL? What was the reason that led to this decision? So those were the questions I asked to the procurement officers at the police forces. They listened to the question, they tried to answer, they couldn't come up with a good answer, and they changed the procurement request. They pulled it, and the GPL forbidding clause was out in the next version of it. As a practical illustration of how asking questions to public services across the EU has helped, is still helping public services move this path, go on this road to using open source. Monika.
Thanks a lot, Gijs. I just wanted to add that also today in the room we have some people that were involved in OSOR from the very beginning.
Yes.
And so I would like to mention Barbara Held, that was one of the project officers, my friend Szabolcs Szekac, that might be here or already left, that I took over from him. We have Patrice Emmanuel-Smith, who is one of the co-authors of European public license. We are not talking about licensing today, but we are talking in our workshops. And also there is a UPL, it's on JoinUp, you know, a lot about licensing. So there's a lot of good stuff, both on OSOR and in general on JoinUp. So, and JoinUp will have a very important role. So I encourage you to really follow us there. But now it's time to talk to those people that, you know, working hard on the ground, and my thing just switched off.
It's always nice.
But I would like to invite first Radoslav Zeman from City of Bratislava. He will present their main project now, Bratislava ID. So, Radoslav, the floor is yours, and I will deal with my thing.
Thank you. Ahoy, hello to everyone. So, my name is Radoslav Zeman, and I work as the lead of front-end development for the City of Bratislava. In April, we launched Bratislava ID as one place for all services, completely developed internally by our innovations team. There is a funny picture to set up the mood, you know. So as a service, as a city, we provide the wide range of services. Some of them are formal, such as property tax and declaration, while others are more enjoying and sexy, like city library or swimming pools. And during the research we conducted in 2020, we found out that citizens don't care who provides the service, but they want them all in one place. In Bratislava ID, we took the inspiration from the city of Paris, and we implemented this umbrella for all of these services. When we started our journey back in 2020, 3 years ago, our digital services did not exist, or they were not used at all, and the city didn't know why. There were, and sadly still are, multiple vendor lock-ins generating unnecessary costs for services that don't bring any value to the city or the users. So how were we able to change the course for better? When we design all of our services, we put the user at the center. We conducted multiple in-depth researches that helped us understand user needs, pain points, and barriers that they came across when using our existing digital services. The research findings have provided us with a guide for a satisfied user. Secondly, we adopted a holistic approach. We always try to deeply understand challenges, processes, and services and connections they have that can result to end-to-end transformation, not only in digital, but also often in offline world. To give you a specific example, the traditional approach would be to take a paper form and just to translate it into digital. But we took an extra step. We mapped the whole process of incoming form throughout the City Hall. We identified bottlenecks. We improved the department's collaboration. Therefore, we are not just improving the experience of filling the form, but we can be transparent about the whole process, about the current progress and the whole service experience. Just to present you with some numbers, how we started and where are we now. In 2021, we rolled out digital property tax payment as a standalone service. We did 2 years of beta testing, iterating, bug fixing, enabling better user experience. This year, more than 17,000 of residents pay their tax online via integrated service in Bratislava ID. The results of user surveys motivated us and showed us that we chose the right approach. As of today, Bratislava ID has nearly 27,000 registered users. In addition to tax payment, we integrated online tickets for swimming pools, and those are 2 services we provide for now. But it's just the beginning. We soon are launching the second major part, e-forms, as a unified templating system for all of our services. It will provide us with the capability to transform more and more services that are provided by the city, organizations, districts, and the city itself. We will continue to build more resilient and independent infrastructure while also finding ways to better engage with residents. We believe that spreading the mindset of design thinking across the departments of the City Hall and also other municipalities is crucial. We hope to lead by example. That's why we made all of our repositories available to public, as we believe in the principle of public money, public code. We developed our own component library using modern, up-to-date technologies such as React, TypeScript, with a focus on accessibility. In the case of city website, we increased accessibility from 20 to 85% and still continues to improve. We have safe and stable user management. We provide multi-factor authentication, email reminders, easy payments through a payment gate. We have integrated digital signing to meet requirements of national portal in cooperation with Sowinska Digital, nonprofit that helped us find the best approaches. We introduced automated tests and deployments, hardware resources management, and queuing system to handle usage peaks and external system outages. As a result, our services are more stable and the savings in time and money are significant. To sum it up, with a user-centered, holistic approach, we designed and implemented multiple modular services that form our Bratislava ID and that we can reuse and recycle also for other services we plan to integrate. Thank you.
Radoslav, that was extremely impressive because we have a clock here in front, and it was like,
and it's like
1 second left, and he said, "Thank you."
Amazing, really
Awesome.
Amazing. I'm
So
so
the
impressed.
team lead for the front-end development in Bratislava.
But that's not all. So embrace yourself because we have some questions to you. But first, I'm inviting Jacco Brouwer to present his work. That he works on behalf of Association of Dutch Municipalities, and he's responsible for managing public-private collaborations on open source software projects. And his current focus is to create a public incubator which supports these collaborations in managing and replacing the public sector in a sustainable way. And he will be talking about how to achieve sustainable collaboration on open source software. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's the after lunch session, so everybody try to hold on, stay awake. So I'm going to share some insights that we have experienced on working and collaborating on open source software within Dutch municipalities. It's a very practical approach that we've chosen. I want to start by giving all the municipalities huge kudos and compliments for taking these initiatives. It takes bravery and entrepreneurial mindset to actually start these initiatives, especially if you take in mind where they come from and what they need. So let's start off with a big compliment for the municipalities who take these initiatives. But first of all, why is collaboration such an important thing for local governments? We've heard it this morning a few times, so I'm not trying to sound like the 5 o'clock news, but for us, it's really important to, of course, transparency, accountability, and enabler for digital sovereignty. We all know that. That's nothing new. But I want to emphasize that for us, it's really the tool for sustainable collaboration. It's the foundation that we need for collaboration. And why is collaboration for these local municipalities so important? Basically, if you look at the situation in the Netherlands, we have huge spendings on IT every single year. We're talking about 2 billion plus. If you take in mind that 342 municipalities in essence do the same tasks, have the same responsibilities, it's very hard to have, let's say, give accountability to society on how we spend that sort of money. It's tax money, as was said before this day. So it's really important that we start collaborating on these essentials. And yes, we have something that we call autonomy, and that's also really important. But in my opinion, we should collaborate on these, let's say, basic infrastructure IT components. Monika asked me, can you give you an example of successful collaborations in the Netherlands? And I said to myself, I said, yeah, I can give many, but we don't have the time for many, so I just sort of like listed them all. There's very many initiatives that we have. I'm myself closely involved to a Signala project, it was already mentioned today, and where we're trying to achieve cross-border collaboration as well with Denmark and also Belgium. And we have, of course, the foundation that Alexandra mentioned this morning, which I call the legal foundation with the laws and the policies that we're making. And that's really steady ground for us to support these bottom-up initiatives in the Netherlands. So it's what we also have done is join forces in the Netherlands. So we've created an OSPO knowledge network. Some of them are also here in the room today, which is really good. It's basically everybody that's working around OSPOs have got together and we're trying to share experiences and best practices. And of course, the open source program office from the Ministry of Boris, you're right there, you're the one. So bottom line is open source is here and it's here to stay. The only thing that we need to figure out is how we can do this in a sustainable way and how can we scale this. So to sum it up, we have a few learnings on how to achieve sustainable collaboration on open source. So the first thing is, and we've heard this many times before, it's all about organizational and mindset. I'd like to see that we also focus on trying to find fresh minds. We seem to find people that are very similar to the ones that we already have in positions. But if you want to change, we need to be disruptive. Also when it comes to finding new workforces, new skill sets. We should embrace new skill sets in order to fulfill these ambitions that we have. Sustainable financial resources. I think we're going to be speaking about that in a short time. It's really important. It's really important to prevent that blue thing over there, because that's eventually everybody encounters the blue thing, which we call the valley of death. So the innovation with municipalities is really good. They have sustainable financial resources for that, but not for the long term. And we see that municipalities are also being the investor of open source, and I think it's a burden that they cannot carry because of the financial constructions that they have to deal with. The struggle to scale is real. It's really selling. I have to sell my open source software solution to municipalities in the Netherlands. So let's say get this in procurement, like we discussed this morning, is really important. Now it's all lifecycle management driven. So when lifecycle management evolves, people get insights on new solutions available, but it needs to be in procurement and lifecycle management. An OSPO, like we already discussed many times, but for the municipalities, like I said, these collaborations are all informal. So informal collaborations to some sort of point get to an issue where they need to procure, they don't have a legal representative. So the OSPO in the Netherlands is more than just supporting the way of working on open source, but it's also the legal body and the administrative body in order to facilitate these collaborations. And last but not least, a sustainable service-based business model for market parties was mentioned before. When it comes to software as a service, we need to emphasize the market, that we're changing to a business model where it's not IP-driven but service-driven, and we're the mission leader. We as government parties are the mission leader. We should take the first step, and market parties are invited to help us. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much.
I see that there is a kind of competition going on right now. But I'm also afraid that maybe I was too tough with you when I was briefing. I'm well known from that, you know. People love me, but I am tough with them. So, yeah, it's the same pattern. We will get back to you with questions. You mentioned innovation, and we have an expert on democratic innovation here, Arnau Monterde. Please go to lecture. The floor is yours. So Arnau is the director of democratic innovation at the Barcelona City Council, a very good friend of Francesca. He's one of the co-founders of the Decidim platform. You will also hear about it later. And he's also in charge of Center of Digital and Democratic Innovation Barcelona, public laboratory for innovation and research that focuses on the intersection between technology, democracy, and Arnau, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that I'm going to lose the competition, but I'll try to win.
I won't let you.
Okay. I'm going to start. The presentation is ready? Here, yes. Okay. I will try to be very brief because we have just 6 minutes, but I will try to point out this idea that we have a very urgent situation, but from a constructive way. That we have a lot of problems. This morning we have seen one of the lot of threats that we have to face on this decade. The concentration of power of the big tech companies, the looseness of sovereignty in our governments, the looseness of democratic control of the technologies that we are using. But let's try to think in potential possibilities that with the things that we can do to improve this situation from Europe, from the cities, and from the public governments. Our approach is our experience in the city of Barcelona, in public sector, but also developing a solution like the Decidim platform, which has been a success initiative, and we will try to explain how we have done it in the city of Barcelona. Also, it's important to understand this multi-layer dimension, because when we think in technology, we have to think in every layer of this dimension, and also how we can do it to obviously put the people first and the rights of the people first. What is Decidim? Decidim is a platform for citizen participation to engage people, and since 2016 we have this data, more than 500 installations, 3 million users around the world, 30 countries, 300 public organizations. It has been really increased a lot our initial expectations when we start to say that we just have to liberate the code. But one of the particularities of this project is it has in its DNA democratic guarantees on the technological design process. We always try to explain the Decidim as a model, and I think that this can be applied to any kind of technologies produced from the public, which are these 3 layers. The first one is the political layer, which is the purpose of technology. Why which things we can do and we want to do with this kind of technology. This is very important because in the public sector we are finding a lot of people imagining possible solutions, but it doesn't matter to anyone. And we have to do exactly what we want to know and what we exactly need for the public. The second dimension, in our case, obviously, the political purpose is democracy. It's not a small thing. The second layer is the technical layer, which means that we have to produce everything in an open way, but not also in an open way with our GPL Affero 3 license. We also need to create technical architecture that allows to collaborate through the technology. And the third layer, and this is very important, is the community and the model of governance, how we are creating ways to be part of this technological process design. We need to include the people, the citizens, the civil society in the process of design technology. Which are the learnings? The learning is initial learning. This project is possible thanks to public funding. This is the point. We need money, and we need public money to do this. Because it's the first initial condition, because then it's impossible to understand this kind of projects. We, as a public, needs to be part of the development race. We cannot leave just to the markets to do this. Because the market, the main goal is to win money. And our main goal is to work with citizens for public and common interest. And I think that this is the main thing. But this is not against the market. This is how we can create the conditions to collaborate with the market in another way. We start to work just with 1 or 2 small companies, and now we have more than 15 or 20 companies providing services on the CDM, and this is a real success. We have innovated a lot inside the city, inside the public, and bringing the technological design process inside the institution and inside the public give us more quality, more capacity to react at the real problems. We have been using agile technology, agile methodologies, but also close to the things that we want to solve. For example, we cannot imagine the CDM without working with the citizen participation department and trying to answer the real problems that we have to face on the city. And the third thing I think that is important, and one of the main learnings that we have get during these years is that the model works because we create this new collaboration environment. We have been cooperating with a lot of different public governments, with more than 150 city governments around Barcelona, the Catalan government, the national government, the European government. We are innovating in the ways that we are coordinating. And just to finish, and sorry, now I'm out of time, I have more pressure, but just which are the learnings that we have attending our experience. We need like a long-term strategy for the funding. We need to develop, not only to regulate. We need to share technology at the 5 different layers that we understand when we think in technology. We have to apply this model of political, technical, and technopolitical levels to our technological projects, and we need to create these conditions to have this European cooperation, but also this cooperation with the Global South, because it's one of our success to cooperate and to share technology with these countries that they don't have the capacity to do it. And we are having a very amazing experience to share with Brazil, with other countries, with Africa, a lot of different countries that they are interested to promote open source technologies. This is why we propose this kind of new alliance. Thank you very much. And we're going to discuss this on the table.
So thank you very much, Arnau. I'm very happy that you explained more about democratic innovation, because you are the only person that I know with this title, Director of Democratic Innovation. So for me, it was really crucial to explain what it's all about. and we will get back to you with some questions. I know, and thank you very much for those short presentations. I know that our audience may have appetite for more, but our idea was just to give you some background for our discussion now, and also, if you are interested, you can always Google, more about those projects. But to really see how many different things are going on in different municipalities in the local level. And now we are going to discuss more about it. In the meantime, I would like to remind you that we still want you to engage with Slido and answer to this question that is main question of our session. What is the role of local governments? We have their representatives here, but what is the role also of national governments in open source?
And
so
we might not be able to get to those questions, but the panel members really want to get the questions so that they can come back to you with answers.
So now let's keep the order that we had presentations. And so question to you, Radoslav. You are the front-end lead in a team of what I heard 6 of 7 colleagues working on open source in the city. How big in total is the team working on open source? Because I believe that you cooperate with some. And the other question that I have immediately is how is to work the work on open source in-house? What are the benefits? What are the advantages and the disadvantages of working in that way?
Yes, I am a developer all day long. So today it's around 7 or 8 developers. We have like full stack development team also with DevOps person, so backend, frontend, DevOps, and then there are other 8 people, mostly project managers, and that forms the innovation team or our department. What are the main benefits are the flexibility and in what we can achieve in a very short time. We can develop things super quickly and super cheap. Yes, there is a question about maintainability and so, but this is really a good, really one big advantage that we can develop it super quickly, even maybe faster than a procurement happens. So this is one of our biggest advantage. And this flexibility and reusability means higher quality and also satisfaction of users. It just works together, combined.
So you are...
Radoslav, I think it will probably help to have somebody like you in the team, because when you talk to people who are trying to figure out the business solution or the government solution, you can grab a laptop and say, look, this is how we'll do it. Is this what happens?
Sometimes, yes. You need to show things to the leadership.
And having somebody like you on board, you can just say, I'll pull in this, I'll have some web frameworks, I'll add some JavaScript code, I think it was.
Yes, JavaScript, TypeScript mostly, yeah. That's what we do, yeah. So as you mentioned in the previous presentation, we are a really development-focused team. And it's nice to see that we can show real examples. We can choose, okay, this is the library, this is the programming language, this is modern. We can find people to do this because it's modern. They want to program in these languages.
Okay, thanks. And Monika, if I may, because we had a question. In your slides, you mentioned briefly Sowinska Digital, which I know from my work on OSOR before, that this is an NGO that is also quite critical of how public services in Slovakia are doing open source. So I think it is super interesting that you work with them, and I would like you to share some of the experiences. Is this something you would recommend to other public services? Please have a critical NGO inside your organization to work
Definitely, yes.
And why is that?
We are in a very strong relationship and in very strong contact with them. As you mentioned, it's critical NGO. They are like guards, or they guard the open source and the money which is invested in digital services. They mostly helped us with connections to state registers because they have a lot of knowledge about state infrastructure, which is not really in our capabilities to understand everything. So this was very helpful to work with them, and we tried to be super open also to them, so they can check if we are on the right path.
So something you would recommend
Definitely
other public
yes.
services
Definitely
to try
yes.
and
We
do?
just benefit both.
I think it's common for all of you. You know, you never work in a vacuum. You always work with some organizations, NGOs. Now you heard about OSPOs that help, you know, to move things forward. So thanks for showing this example, because I think it's true for almost all open source projects that it's, you know, cooperation is the key. So now, Jacco, a question to you. You mentioned examples of success stories, which I asked you to do that, but also you were talking about some obstacles. So you called, in your presentation, you called collaboration key for local government. What is the biggest barrier to scaling up collaboration, and what would you need to overcome it?
I think my answer would be there's two barriers. One is about strategic funding and long-term funding. Like I said, municipalities that take initiatives deserve a compliment, but not the burden of also being the investor. So we see that Amsterdam, for example, is carrying a lot of the financial weight in order to maintain and fund these initiatives, which is really good. And I always call that our luck. It's our luck that Amsterdam has the financial capabilities to do so, but it's not their role. If you do this in a smaller collaboration with smaller municipalities, it's unfair to accept or expect that they're going to be handling the finances that come with these long-term investments. So it needs change on the financial side. We're going to be deep diving into that anytime soon, I think. And the other one is the autonomy that we have as municipalities, which is a very valuable good. But it's also an enemy for collaboration, because it gives you the option to bail out. And that's really difficult. So I think what we discussed this morning to get this in the procurement, in the life cycle management, really helps as an external factor to stimulate collaboration a bit more directive instead of voluntarily. So that would be my two things that are crucial, in my opinion.
So funding, I think everybody knows that it's a key thing, that it's needed for sustainability of projects and also for scaling up of whatever you do. We will talk about it. Of course, we cannot talk about all forms of funding that are possible.
But easy accessible, that would help.
Yeah, so it's access to funding, and it's easy, and that the procedures are shorter, and in public sector, I understand. It's interesting that you mentioned autonomy as an obstacle, but I understand that in this context it might be, so you need some agreement on some rules on cooperation.
Yeah, we're not unified. So if there's commercial parties that offer proprietary software, they have free choice. They can choose that. So we really need to sell the collaborations as a market party, as it were. And that feels really uncomfortable because we're spending public money. So if the mission is equal for everyone, why are we not collaborating on that? Because we think we're special. And of course, every municipality is special in its way. But if you just solo look at what they do, they all do the same thing. So why not collaborate on that? And that is also more accountable when it comes to spending that public money.
So Jacco, earlier today, your minister, and also a little bit my minister, for digitalization expressed a renewed and very strong support for open source. So what kind of action would you want the government to do most, or what would you want the government to do first?
Yeah, probably also get back to those two things again. Also easy accessible funding, to dismiss the local municipalities for organizing their finances, finding ways to make collaboration more directive instead of voluntarily, I'd say. And maybe the third one to that is that we need to have, I'm just going to call it independent ground, call it a public incubator, an OSPO, but someone who is like able to keep these collaborations going. They need to be lively, and there's someone that needs to be in charge of bringing these communities further. Because municipalities are quite occupied in their work that they do on a daily basis. So it's in here, it's also unfair to expect from municipalities to carry the weight of, let's say, 342 municipalities on an initiative. So we need like, what's that guy that does the drums? We need someone that keeps the fire burning.
Boris, do you drum?
Yeah, that's
You
what I
play an
wanted
instrument
to ask.
at all?
Boris, new chief of OSPO in the Ministry of Interior and Kingdom Relationships of the Netherlands, and who brought a lot of colleagues to this meeting. So hopefully, this is, the future is bright for you, I hope.
Yeah, the 30 people that are here are not allowed in the bus before they promise me that they're going to help me. Yeah.
Okay,
Otherwise
I
it's gonna be a
can
long
help
night.
you with also, like making sure that they first promise before they get access to our networking cocktail.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We need
Okay.
to start doing more.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. So now, back to you, Arnau. Barcelona is one of the European open source lighthouses. When it comes to working together, as you do you have recommendations for your peers in other member states? Because you have a huge experience as, City of Barcelona, working with a lot of projects, but also Decidim. So what is your recommendation?
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Yes, I think that we have learned a lot. First, the question of the public funding, definitely, but we have been doing a lot of innovation in the public procurement. We put as a clue the experience on open source project and the specific experience on open repositories and the specific experience with projects related to GPL licenses, which is a huge innovation, and this should be mandatory in every public contract in the public institutions from
using open source license in general, or this one particular?
I would say this one, but in general, open source definitely.
I won't agree
We
with
have
that.
to open all the possibilities, but definitely to us, this license is one of the most guarantees in terms of viralization and reproduction of the code. And actually, the results of the CDM show us that this is a real possibility. And also the innovation in collaboration. We are inventing new ways to collaborate at the different levels, global level, with different countries, with different social organizations. And this is really amazing because it's happening thanks to open the code, but taking care a lot our community, to feeding every day our community, involving them in the decision-making process, in the design process. This idea of the idea of democracy, bring it to in the design process of technology. And I think that this should be in every technological solution developed by the public with communities, because we need this democratic control. When we have, for example, the problems that has today the social networks, we need open source solutions, but also we need democratic control of these solutions. And to have democratic control means to involve the people to see what happens with the implication of this technical decision, because there is no technical decisions. All the decisions are political. Design a button is a political decision when we are doing participatory democracy in our case. And to attend this dimension is crucial, definitely.
Thank you very much. We have one more question for you.
Because we were curious, some of us in the audience were curious whether open source social media were going to be mentioned in this panel, and boom, there they were. Your role in the city of Barcelona is amazing, and I'm sure you would want other cities in Europe to have a person like you doing the work that you do. Can you tell us what kind of changes would be necessary in a city to make your function possible?
And if you can answer in 1 minute, because we want to talk about money.
Yes, I think this is not you don't need any kind of condition, you have to do it anymore, but I think that it's important to recuperate this position, to have the technical knowledge and the political knowledge combined, because when we talk about technology in the 21st century, we are talking about democracy and we are talking about politics, and we need to introduce this view inside of the technological projects, and this is a key aspect, and this is why we innovate in this idea of democratic innovation in the city.
Thanks. So you see a bit the two roles that we have, developers and people who can translate this into policies for the cities. And I think we have great examples on the panel here. Monika.
So now, as promised, we are going to talk about money. One of the crucial elements for any project sustainability is funding. And it's, of course, very much true for open source projects. So we will start with Fiona Krankenburger. She's a co-founder of the Sovereign Tech Fund, an initiative funded by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action to support open source infrastructure in the public interest. So she will present this initiative to us. Fiona?
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Fiona Krakenburger from the Sovereign Tech Fund. Thank you so much for inviting me and letting me talk about the work that we do at the Sovereign Tech Fund, an initiative that is funded by the German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. The Sovereign Tech Fund was launched a little bit about more than a year ago. The work that went into it started many years ago. And our mission is to strengthen digital infrastructure and open source ecosystems in the public interest. We do this by investing in open source infrastructure. What we mean with that is we invest in all these core technologies that are really critical and widely used, like libraries or the tools that developers use to build software, programming languages, the infrastructure that is needed for programming languages to work, like package managers, the different packages that are being provided. So the technologies that are used and necessary for every imaginable software development, for science, for research. Research also needs tools, of course, digital tools, programming languages, databases. We've talked about AI. Guess what? AI also needs software. And I think around 8 of the 10 most used tools that are being used in AI development are open source, and a lot of them are written in Python, which is also underlined with a big ecosystem of a lot of volunteers and people that are creating the software. So for everything that we talk about, these core technologies are necessary. If you haven't dealt or engaged with open source infrastructure before, I really highly recommend it to understand the scale of it and how important it is. You can imagine it almost like a layer that forms the basis of what we see as a modern and digital society, or the world that we live in today is created by these technologies, or those that form the basis. And while the image of the layer is certainly correct, also technically, there's a problem with that image, because well, I have no words at my disposal to explain this better than this comic can actually do, that has been doing a lot of great work for us. Randall Munroe it's from Randall Munroe, and it's called Dependencies, and it shows the issue that we have at hand, because it's not a layer, but oftentimes it's actually these little extremely critical technologies that are used everywhere, and the pressure on them is growing every day because we build more technology, we build more software, more and more people are using them. So the problem is not only that there are these small technologies carrying all that work and modern infrastructure, but also that these technologies, the amount of usage is in no relation to the amount of support they receive, or even awareness and acknowledgement. Oftentimes, we don't even know that these technologies exist. There's no financial contribution. Oftentimes, these things are maintained by small teams, I guess if we are lucky, and a vivid community of contributors. Sometimes it's individuals, and really shockingly often it's volunteers that do this in their free time that just happen to carry or being the pillars of what we use today in our digital world. Because the trouble with infrastructure very often is that it's often invisible until it's not. In 2014 and 2021, we've seen really, really big security flaws that have affected the entire world. This one was Heartbleed, that's a symbol for that. It was in the OpenSSH library. Then in 2021, you probably heard about Log4j, very similar situation. A pretty small team has been working on this technology. And this technology having a security flaw was felt all over the world, in economics, in administration, everywhere. So the pressure is growing every day, and we think at the Sovereign Tech Fund that we should see this digital infrastructure the same that we see physical infrastructure. It is the resource and at the basis of what we need as a modern society, and hence there should also be public support. And this is where the Sovereign Tech comes in, the Sovereign Tech Fund comes in. This is the current list of projects that we are supporting. You can learn more about these on our website. I really recommend it. We've been trying really hard to explain what these are and why they are important. To just name a few, there's my all-time favorite, curl. It's probably the most used application on this planet, and actually also on Mars and on the Moon. So it's also been used on these. So it's the most.
The developer lives in Nebraska, Sweden. So.
Oh, yeah, he's a very cool person that's been doing a lot of work for this field. There's Fortran, a pretty old programming language, but it's actually used a lot in climate research. So someone's excited about Fortran. But we are also excited about Fortran because there's a lot of work to be done to make lives easier also for climate researchers so they can use actually the potential of Fortran. So I really recommend looking at this list. We are going to add more and more because we have a bunch of exciting projects coming up in the pipeline. I want to say one sentence in addition. I know that there's a lot of interest in this. We provide service agreements, so we procure, we buy labor to be done on these technologies. So people write us invoices coming back to the question around how can we make fund accessible. I've worked in open source funding for a long time, and this is a very straightforward way. So we define the scope of work, and then the maintainers do the work, and we pay them. So for everyone who's equally excited about procurement law, talk to me. Yeah, you might have never heard about a lot of these technologies, and for some that might continue to be so, and that might actually be a good thing. But I still encourage you to learn more about these because they are really, really important for everything that we want to do and a lot of the values that we have. So last but not least, our vision is a strong, robust, well-funded and secure FOSS infrastructure ecosystem that serves the public interest. This is a very heavy lift. For next year, we are going to extend the support that we want to offer. We want to work with partners. We are very heartened by the big interest that we see in the Sovereign Tech Fund, and we are looking forward to collaborate on solving this really, really big task of creating a secure and sustainable open source ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fiona. I discovered you, because I can say yours, you are co-founder, a year ago, and I was really impressed, and I am now even more impressed. So we will have some questions to you, but now I would like to invite Fabrizio Sestini, a colleague of mine from the European Commission, a senior expert in digital social innovation. So we get, again, democratic innovation, social innovation, but he's going to talk about money. It's just about the initiative called NGI, Next Generation Internet, and many of you don't know that actually this Commission's initiative funds a lot of projects, and at least in recent years, and now the requirement is that they need to be based on open source. So in that way, the Commission funds open source. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Monika. So you said it all. I can go. And so I will try to take a slightly broader perspective on open source on the topic that we call digital commons. Digital commons is, it's not a new term, but it has entered our jargon quite recently because of an interest actually from the French government, which resounded very well with the scope of our activities. So digital commons is a way of designing digital resources which are produced in a shared manner and also maintained and governed in a shared manner. And this includes not only open source, but also open hardware, open design, open standards, and most important, perhaps of all, open data, because it's difficult to talk about open source solutions without thinking that they manage open data and not proprietary data belonging to some private companies. So the advantages of the main reasons why we appreciate the concept of digital commons, you can see that from two different perspectives. From the perspective of sovereignty, and we have heard many of the speakers before talking about the collective control, permissionless innovation, no lock-in into proprietary systems, but also support to decentralization of data management especially, which is key in this moment. And also from the perspective of trust, because open source means transparency, means privacy protection, user control, portability, and very importantly as well, inclusion. So this also resounds very well with actually a declaration on digital rights and principles, which was issued just at the beginning of last year, which puts a lot of emphasis on the concept of putting people at the center, solidarity and inclusion, freedom of choice, participation, safety, and sustainability. Sustainability seen not as sustainability of open source. Sustainability means as the contribution of open source, of digital commons, to environmental, social sustainability, so in the larger acception. And the Next Generation Internet initiative, which Monika mentioned, is actually based upon the same values, which I will not repeat for a third time. This is something that we launched 5 years ago. And the state of play at this moment is that we have funded indirectly through cascading projects. We have funded some 1,000 projects. We have had a 15% success rate in the open calls through which these projects have been selected, which means that there has been a lot of interest in this funding, and which means also that we have been able to select the very best of all the proposals submitted, which we hope is translating in a very high quality of the projects. We are also engaging more than 1,000 innovators, because this is an initiative aimed especially at young or small innovators. And today, and since a couple of years, there is a requirement of having 100% of the software developed as open source. This is actually a requirement that we had also in previous programs, actually also in the program which funded the Decidim platform that was mentioned before at the beginning, of which we are very proud of course. But in this moment, this is perhaps the only or one of the very few programs of the European Commission which puts such a requirement on open source of the projects to be funded. Open source nature, which actually would require some more qualification, because you know that there are many different types of open source, and it's not always easy to tell which ones are really ensuring all these values that we are putting a stress on. So I will try to go quickly in order to avoid the big flashing red box that we see when we approach the 6 minutes, that you don't, unfortunately. There is, perhaps most important for you is how we are going to support the commons and the open source. So there are 3 projects that we are launching in these weeks, actually. The projects are just being signed in these days, and they will be announced very shortly on the ngi.eu website. One is about supporting commons to fit usage, so to support the innovators in side aspects, let's say, such as security, quality, accessibility, privacy, licensing, etc., in order to improve existing commons. Another project is about, another set of projects is about piloting NGI commons within verticals, so within a variety of industrial and societal use cases. And then the biggest of these projects is about funding NGI commons. So This is a project which will continuously launch open calls to select relatively small projects in the field of digital commons. An example of pilots, actually, which I would like to mention is Local for Local, which is about strengthening local ties in local areas through local currencies and to support the local economy then. And this is managed actually by Mr. Van Bulpen, which is in this room, so if you have interest, you can contact him. And about our vision for the future for the development of the commons is, on one side, to envisage a one-stop shop for commoneers to easily find funding and assistance, which is something that we are starting now with the project I just mentioned, but also to have possibility of seeing more call for commons, also synchronized by member states. And we see a big role for foundations in the field of open source, and the possibility of establishing a European foundation for digital commons. And there are a lot of other aspects I should be talking about, but one thing that I should mention is that it's not only funding which is missing for open course, but also a kind of institutionalization of open source, of digital commons in all the software, all the systems that are publicly funded. And one way to do this is also to establish a concept of digital commons first, both in usage and in creation of these products. I will stop here, and thank you very much.
Is it okay now? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, let's talk about money. So it should work like coffee for you for the moment. And I would like first clarify with you, Fiona, because maybe I missed it, but your fund, if I may call it, it's supported by the ministry, German ministry. Do you fund globally or just German projects?
We do support globally. Can you hear me? Yeah. No, you can't. Yeah, and for us, it was actually really important from the very beginning when we conceptualized the program that we can support developers all over the world, because this is how this works. People all over the world work on this common resource, and they should be supported where they are. So yes, we do, and the projects that we support are currently quite widespread.
So any infrastructure project, you know that you need to contact Fiona. A follow-up on the call by Francesca Bria earlier this morning for scaling up of the funds like yours, about every member state having similar fund. How would you want these to work together, and where would you start? What lessons learned can you share with us? Although I am not sure that you started to work with other funds like yours.
Yeah, so a bunch of people already came up and said, have you heard Francesca talking about the 10 billion euro fund? I think it's a great idea that we should rally for. It is a big amount, but I do think that we should think about the scale because, as I said, this is a really heavy lift. I do think that there are different options. I think we do need more players. I think we need more actors and not less. So there's definitely room and potential for more actors becoming part of this. I do think that it's the most, if it's member states pulling together or if it's one big EU fund, the most important part is that we are well coordinated, because having small SCFs everywhere that are not coordinated is probably the worst that we could do for the field. Having one big fund or smaller funds that are well coordinated is a big service to the field. because otherwise I think it would be very confusing, and it has to be clear how we are complementary. I think there's also value in funds having slightly different focuses, so they are actually complementary. But yeah, this is a shared resource, this is a shared responsibility that we should tackle together. And I'm very curious to see how this is going to develop further. I think we should all rally behind it and look for more funding opportunities to create larger amounts and support mechanisms.
Happy to hear that you started to work on it, at least in your head. And good luck with scaling also your fund and the concept.
Yeah, thank you. And I think just last thing to say, I think one of the biggest impacts that the Sovereign Tech Fund is we did a thing. So we talked about lots of exciting ideas, right? But we did this thing. It wasn't easy, it took a long time, but now we did it. So you can point at us, and we have the experience. We made a couple of smart and stupid mistakes that we can all learn from, and we are very happy to share. So let's coordinate on this, because now this thing exists, it's a success, and we can point at it and say, let's copy it. And it's out there at your disposal to be copied.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome, Fiona. I'm going to take Claire's magic wand from the earlier panel. From the 3 panelists on the municipality side that we have in our panel, we've heard calls and examples of how they work with SMEs. We've had it also in other panels, with people saying we need to work with the private sector, we need to work with small and medium-sized enterprises. I would like to know if you have ideas on how we can make this possible, whether funding instruments like the one that you're managing is a way to do it. What would you do?
So we consider public investment in this infrastructure as a missing piece of the puzzle, but it's not the only answer. Obviously, companies, industry is profiting heavily from all these available resources, so they need to be part of the strategy and of the solution. And as I said before, this is a really heavy lift. We don't need either or actor. We need to work on this together, and we need to strategize together. So I would say the solution forward is collaboration and working with companies. Maybe, I could think of many different formats. Maybe it's match funding and saying, hey, we invest in this together, but we only do this if you have a proper open source strategy, because you can have an OSPO, but you need an open source strategy that is actually implemented in it. So I do think that we have a good way forward to collaborate on this, to build strategies together, to do match funding. I think also it's a narrative challenge. We need to talk more about open source, make it more public, and make it more clear that everyone's profiting from it, literally everyone. Log4j, many organizations know they profit, they depend on it. That doesn't mean that they paid a single euro to these people working on it. So those are the things that I think we need to be more vocal about, that we need to stress, and maybe, collaboration, but maybe also slight and gentle pressure that we should assert. But eventually, I think we need to be in this together. We need to come up with strategies, do co-founding, get those technologies into the conversation, and come up with strategies so we can lift this thing off together.
Thanks. Fabrizio, again, I have the magic wand. I got it from Claire. If I was able to give it to you, what would you improve or change in the NGI? Where would you want it to? What would be the outcome you would want it to be in 5 years?
Well, to change in NGI, almost nothing. Also because I have colleagues here in the room dealing with NGI. But I think the NGI is great in this support for open source and digital commons. I think in the future we should be oriented more towards bigger actions and more multidisciplinary actions than what we can achieve today with the funding available today. So if the funding increases, then I think we can do much more even than what we are doing now.
So there we're picking up on Francesca's suggestion. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
There was a second part of your question. Sorry.
I'm curious to know if you can paint a picture of where you see the NGI in 5 years. Is it 1,000 projects? So is it 2,000 projects, or are we looking at 10,000 projects?
I will not see it in terms of numbers, because it's difficult to talk about resources, about funding. That depends on many things. And again, it's not the main point. As I tried to stress at the end of the presentation, I think there are political issues, as our Director for Democracy said before. But there are also structural issues, institutional issues, which we aim to solve, for instance, by implementing this principle of digital commons first in all the developments. And all these things could have a much bigger impact than funding alone in this field. So in 5 years, what I hope will be the scenario, independently from NGI, is to have the concept of digital commons adopted at all levels in the name of freedom of choice, democracy, sovereignty of citizens over the software, the systems they use, and not dependency on private companies, as it is the case today.
Thank you, Fabrizio. So now I have one more question for you that kind of connect dots. So municipalities' problems and options that NGI offers. And I want to challenge you 1 minute to answer. So you heard Jacco, Arnau, and Radoslav describe some of the challenges they have to advance open source in their municipalities and in their sectors' domains. If you could, if there is anything you would pick up and then try to address using mechanisms such as NGI, because you are an expert and you know what NGI can do for open source. So question is, challenges that they face, is there way that NGI can help address those challenges? Because I know that the structure of the mechanism is different, but just open question.
This is what we are trying to do today, to provide tools to solve these challenges. But the challenges, again, I see them at political level, but also there is a challenge of understanding the value of digital commons or of open source and the potential or the need for it for democracy. And I think there is an action of creating a culture around this that NGI could address and perhaps successfully solve in the future, to the benefit of local communities, to justify also the fact that they are spending public money, as you say, that there is a responsibility in spending public money, and that this should be done in ways which are understood by citizens, by creating value first and mostly for the citizens and not for private companies.
Thank you very much. So we have many more questions to all of you, but since we are still the session with the nominated projects and the award ceremony, we will have to soon finish. But I would like to ask, what is the result of our question that you had to the audience? Our word cloud. And in the meantime, I would like to ask all of you to answer the same question. What is the role of national governments and local governments? So for some of you, you are representing them in open source. In our title of the session, we had champions, creators, funders, but there is more. So what is the result of the cloud?
You have it in front of you as well, over there.
Thank you, but...
you have many answers.
Yeah.
You have many answers. You want me to go over them? I think it's mostly using them. If I can, people use different terminology, and that's why it doesn't show up in a bigger size. But
contributors, I think it's what some of you could mean. It's giving back to community. So when the government uses, or national or local uses open source, it's not necessarily developed in-house.
The usage in different forms, users, using, use, walk the walk. I mean, this is what mostly I think people are saying.
Yes, so now each of you around, starting from Radoslav, so it's, one by one, quickly, please. What do you think? What is the most important function? Maybe all of them, but what would you pick as, role of national and local government in open source?
From these words.
No, your own ideas, please. But you can use those if you agree with them.
It's nice to talk about like implementing open source, spending public money, funding. We are here on open source conference, and it's developers who make the code for the open source, as we discussed yesterday. Maybe I would rephrase it a little bit, or I would answer a different question.
Okay, but then you have just one word, the role, and for every one of you.
Okay, I will use one sentence. I would like to see this nice event also for developers. Like, I see this community is super nice. It's super nice to talk about all these things, and I'm really glad to be here. But I would like to see similar events also for developers, and to be able to contribute, to exchange the knowledge, and not to feel alone in your own city.
It's a very good idea. I love it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jacco?
Yeah, I'll take it just straight away from your answer. It says here in the word cloud, there's a like walk the talk. That's really what we need to start doing. I mean, we're so used to staying in that safe abstract zone where we can think and write and talk about how we can do things. But the essence of doing this is actually doing it. And I know that it is a capability that we don't all have currently. So bringing the developer workforce, yeah, we need to get to work together and actually make mistakes, learn, improve. So yeah, walk the talk. I like that one.
Thanks. Fiona?
Just in addition, agreeing, but also in addition, I think governments can be customers, public interest customers, purchasing work on the technologies that they use. I would also say, I don't know what the noun is, but the person doing inventory. The European Commission has published a list of the most critical open source technologies they use, and it's incredibly important for us. It helps us to make strategic decisions in what we want to invest. So local governments notoriously don't have great inventories of the technology they use, but having this in an open source context makes it easier to make decisions on where do you want to invest, what labor do we purchase as customers, and third, maybe be an employer. Be an employer for people working on open source, doing maintenance on all these different technologies that you have and that you use and that you contribute, that you profit from, that you are based on. So yeah, doing inventories, being an employer, and a public interest customer.
Thanks. Arnau, your turn. Your take.
I have a very specific receipt for cities and for national governments. We need public agencies doing like 3 main functions. The first one is creating a governance space with communities deciding the rules in which we collaborate around technology. The second is leading the digital transformation of the governments to free software, which is a very, very strong battle. And the third one is distributing funds to the most important free software projects, because the most important free software projects are on the basis on our digital society, and we need to take care of them. And this is the way to distribute and allocate the funding.
Thank you very much. So I see that the list is growing for the governments. What is your take on this?
Well, I'm a bit surprised that in this word cloud, there is the word users so prominent, which is a passive word and very technical word. And there is not the word citizens, active citizens. Because those would be, in my vision, the main beneficiaries of open source. And in this respect, I think the biggest challenge is to build open source products which can compete with the commercial products that we all use every day. And in this respect, the 2 billion from Francesca would be very welcome. Thank you. 10 billion, so yes.
Okay.
But even that would not be enough, because if you compare that with the budget of Google or Facebook,
okay.
It would be peanuts.
Thank you very much. So it means that it's good that we changed the program for this session, and we invited also Fiona and Fabrizio to talk about money, because this is a recurring thing in our discussions.
It is super fitting that the word cloud in the end merges our panel, because taking the slogan from the FSFE, public money,
public code, yes. So we would like to continue, But the best way to do it is just to join OSOR, visit us there, join our webinars, workshops. We organize a lot. Actually, most of our speakers today, or topics that we touch upon today, we discussed in our webinars that I organized this year with OFE that supports us for the content. Because we work, with contractors. I can't provide everything for OSOR. I just manage it. I have a team of OFE and other contractors to support us. There is a lot of great content there. And to discuss further, just join our webinars. We will be announcing a new ones very soon, hopefully, once I rest and our team also. So you can see they are already on my back to finish the session. So thank you very much to all of you. You are invited to continue discussion during the break. Also, you can learn more about NGI. If you haven't noticed yet, there is a stand for NGI. And there are other stands. There are colleagues from Open Source Program Office that are happy to answer your questions. And of course, our nominated projects for the awards, so please go there. I would like to thank you very much. And all our speakers, thanks Gijs for joining me here.
Monika. Thank you.
And
thank you.